You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Prasky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Hey,
what up?
Look at where I am, Andy.
You jail? Oh,
I'm back home, baby.
I was gonna say all the white walls. Are you in some kind of a prison cell or what happened?
I
You have a good
know.
trip in Brazil.
I do gotta maybe start decorating. My desk is very well decorated. Look at.
I like it.
Yeah.
The Windex wipes look good.
Yeah, I know.
What do you do with those?
48 hours to get home.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
did you check out Rio or no? You were stuck in Rio, right?
Yeah, never did. Yeah, remember we were up all night, so you had to sleep. We had a hotel. Thought it was one of those interesting hotels where you pay by the hour. It was kind of nice.
Oh, the sex hotel?
Yeah, kind of. But it wasn't. It was right in the airport, so it was super sweet. But it was.
Oh, it's one of those hotel. The foot
no
under the
windows,
walls kind of hotel.
two twin beds. It was just like, but a nice shower, and just slept. We got in. We got delayed, and then got into Rio at like 2:30 in the morning, and nobody was at the gate. American Airlines. We did not talk to someone at the gate until 18 and a half hours later. But we were able to kind of try to get it's just crazy. But we ended up getting on, and then on the other flights, they tried putting half hours later in a middle seat, like for all my flights, because they said, "Hey, your flight got canceled." I said, "Oh no, that ain't happening." And so ended up getting really good seats out of the story. So
That's
all
good.
was not horrible.
Well, you know, I had a great week. Ask me.
Andy, did you have a great week?
When I was at my cabin last week, I was cleaning up the beach, and I'm sitting there and I go, "Wow, that's a cool looking thing." So I pick it up and I Google it, and it looks like right here I actually found a meteorite. Swear to God, it's the weirdest little rock. It's like greasy and it's gray, and I looked it up on Google and it says it's a meteorite, and so I've held on to this all week and it's been good luck for me.
Show it again.
Meteorite power, baby. Woo woo.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be worth a lot of money, you know?
Are you
Yeah,
Superman?
$100 if somebody wants to buy it. But you got to get it out of my little grubby little hands.
I was gonna say, do you want to sell it? It's only worth what someone's willing to sell it for, and someone's willing to pay for it.
I picked up 4 listings this week, so I was pretty excited. I'm like, it works.
Wow.
I was thinking about a necklace. What do you guys think?
Hey, let's talk about that. Did they all come out of kind of the woodwork right away, or something that you'd been working on for a while?
Some of them I've been in contact with before, and then a couple have just listings that were people were like, you know what, hey, we're ready. Tired of waiting for perfect timing. Screw it, let's go. Let's get the house on the market this fall. Let's sell it. So it's been and I'm all over the board for areas too. It's crazy.
Did you tell them what a wonderful time it is to list, and where we're hardly getting any showings? And it's a weird time. I'm telling you.
So I'll give you a weird. I'll wait till next week maybe to tell you the success story on one. I have one this week that's contradicting the trend. I mean, like crazy showings, like 2 showings at a time, and anyway.
What price point?
Under 400.
Okay.
With land.
That's interesting, because I have one that's 350. I mean, and that would have had 100 showings the first weekend, and we're probably at 11.
Dang.
Yeah, which is really great. I mean, it's great. It's gonna sell, and we've got people that are, we like it and everything. But you just think the thing is that what a seller has to think now, it's not all these fancy little other websites and trying to get people into it. You have to maximize each showing that you have now. And it's even more important now to make sure that you've done it right from the beginning, to be able to do it based on what your price point is. You don't have to go crazy. So if you have a $300,000 house, you don't have to remodel the whole thing to be able to make it, but maybe it's getting everything that you can do the right way. So if it's cleaning, or it's maybe sealing your driveway, making it black, just kind of giving it that little extra. So it's just one less thing that they don't have to put on their list that they have to do after the fact.
Yeah, and it's been, I've had quite much. So my team, I've got about 15 agents on the team now, and I have everybody, on the team from doing one sale this month to doing 7. So it's like our range of like closings has been pretty successful the last month here. So, we're getting deals done. I think that it's just constantly adapting to these new markets as they change, and then getting those houses. And then you're right. Some of these listings are not just, we're not listing and popping. And I'll tell you what, the seller that goes on the market that's ahead of the market is a fool. Right now, you cannot be ahead of the market. You have to be right on the values. And I'll tell you what, I always tell everybody, when I sit down there, maybe they'll laugh when I say this. What would you pay for your own house based on what you know about it? Because everybody nowadays is so smart. They do so much research. The inspectors are fantastic. A lot of them are. Some are horrible, but most are fantastic. And you go through that process, and by the time you're done, they know as much about that house as you do, and what would you pay? And that's a real interesting position to put yourself in, because as a seller, if you put yourself into that range of price, what'll happen is you're going to get a lot of interest. You're going to get a bunch of people, and then the competitiveness kicks in that we're used to from the last couple of years, where people compete for the fair deals, and they may offer non-contingent. They may go cash. They might waive an inspection. They might have an appraisal gap guarantee. They might do all these other things you normally won't get when you only have 2 people showing that house over the course of a month and a half, right?
What about another thing that's kind of coming into play now? It's contingencies. It's a lot more prevalent. I mean, and sellers are looking at them because they're like, hey, I thought we are going to have a ton of showings. We had 3 this weekend. We got 1 offer. They do need to sell their house. Let's take it. Let's grab it. Their house looks like it'll sell. We had 2 of those, and actually both of the backup houses sold. So that was kind of nice. Sold pretty quick, but it will stop showings. It really does. For the most part,
another interesting spin. So this week, one of my listings, I won't say any names to protect the innocent, but we had a situation where I had a house coming on the market, this week, and unseen, we get an offer, they don't even care if they see it. There's all these, perfect scenario, over ask price, all this other stuff. And it comes right down to where somebody, that agent is being a little smart, and trying to get in front of the rest of the market because they know that there's going to be momentum there. But here's the thing: just because an offer comes in early doesn't mean it's a good offer or the right offer. And so what you have to take a look at is things like I said to these guys, my sellers, would you guys ever buy a house sight unseen based on pictures? I mean, I sold a guy from Japan a house, but for the final walkthrough, he sent his wife all the way from Japan to do the final walkthrough. And we were crossing our fingers, hoping to God that they still bought it. He was with Northwest Airlines. And long story short, it makes me leery, And then the other thing is contingencies, like you said. Almost every offer I see coming in now is some kind of a contingency, And people say that the one that it's verbiage or wording on these purchase agreements. The house is already sold, so we're coming in non-contingent. And I'm that old school jerk that's had the deals blow up. So I'm like, hey, when you say that, can you perform without this purchase agreement on your property closing? Well, no. And I go, well, then technically you're contingent upon the successful sale. And see, there's a lot of semantics that go into that because they come in and these offers look like they're not contingent upon the sale, but they really are. So some of these agents present that as a non-contingent offer when you really have to take a look at the fine print. And well, I mean, they're just trying to sell the deal too. Say, oh, we already have the house sold, so it's a non-contingent offer. And
but you're saying, are they picking option 2 or 3?
What's that?
What are they filling out of the purchase agreement?
Well, we're putting on there that it's contingent upon the successful closing,
yeah.
But the way that they present it is incorrect. So we're seeing a lot of these inexperienced agents saying, well, their house is already sold. I go, but it isn't closed. And I've seen a lot of battles happen between a offer and a closing. So
But the reality is now is that we have to deal with that, and maybe during the whole pandemic part of it, it was like, that was kind of a factor because we had 7 other choices. But now when we have one choice, It's like, okay, well, we have to deal with that. But now, why don't you give us a little more information on that side, like a purchase agreement and their lender information? Just something that we have so we can tell our sellers. And I don't know. I think it's, it's like all of this stuff. It's like the guy you're talking about that hasn't seen the property and hasn't looked at it. Is that a red flag? Yeah, it possibly could be. But I've also had people that have looked at properties online and made offers because, number one, the area is what they want. And they can't get there. They don't want it. And it's like, hey, we'll do a virtual showing. And if it's good, and then not only will they do it, they'll do it not even based on an inspection. If they think it's good, they'll grab their own little warranty. Now you got to watch out for warranties as well, because not everything is covered in the warranty. But I think sometimes it gets to a point that people have to make some decisions for what works for them and what they're trying to do. But I think our job as an agent is to be able to give that seller all that information and be able to say, hey, here's things that could go wrong, because they could go wrong. So I don't know. I think it's
how many times
even like today.
Chris, and I know you do the same things I do. We're very similar in our practices, but like where I get an offer that comes in and it's upon the successful closing, but it's a cash offer, Andy, don't worry about it. Or it's mostly cash on the buyer coming, the backup sale to this one. And I spend the time, I call those guys. I call the agent. I'll actually call the proof of funds letter holder. I'll call them, and these people get shocked. Like, who are you? I'm like, I'm the guy that is trying to decide if we want to accept your offer based on your letter of recommendation stating that they have sufficient funds, but you have no data. It just says so-and-so has sufficient funds to cover the purchase of this property. Well, I want details. Okay, cool. How much do they have in there? And I can't tell you that. And I go, well, then can you put the purchase price on that letter? Well, we don't need to do that. And I go, if you're not going to tell me the numbers, and I want to know that you have, I want you to say you have this much money and that money is being held. And it's because the other thing is this, Chris. So you have a checking account. You have $2 million in there, and you write a $2 million offer on a house, and you decide real quick on a Friday night, hey, we're going to swing down to Mexico for a long weekend. And you go down there and you blow $50,000, you and your buddies, and it's now you have $1,950,000. Or you go to a casino, whatever, you blow $50,000. Well, now because that's a liquid fund, now that amount is changed. So what I'll also do is I'll say if anything changes on this file or the amount goes below this amount, you agree to notify us within 24 hours of that occurrence. And people go, well, that's like we have to manage it. And I go, exactly. I want you to be a banker. Manage that account.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference of you saying that and a lot of agents saying that, because you've been through it a bunch of times and you can smooth it out. But I think there's a lot of people, if you're inexperienced as an agent and you go to that and you come to me and you start saying that, and then I'm inexperienced and I go tell my client, all of a sudden it's like, what, they don't believe me? But screw them, and It becomes this craziness thing that never should have done, because the agents are trying maybe too much to be able to be the hero. And I've just seen it from inexperienced agents that it doesn't come out right. Everything you're saying is exactly right, the way we should do it, but it's how you present it and not how some of these other people have presented it, because it just gets to a point. It's like, dude, you know what? You've been on 35 days now. We made this offer. I mean, it's a good deal. If you don't want it, we'll just go get something else. And then all of a sudden the deal blows
maybe
up.
I should add a few more words to my phrase then, because if I was dealing with a guy like you, Chris, and I had a $2 million listing and my client showed that they had exactly $2 million, I'd say to my client, why don't we put another 500,000 in there just to show that you're really good, that you're not like right on the bubble. Because proof of funds, some people, I'm telling you, man, they have $400,000. They write an offer for 400. If they do one bank withdrawal, funny, all of a sudden they're low and they can't close or whatever. I mean, anyway, that's what I was trying to say.
But that's the difference. That's the difference. Exactly what you just said, because now it all makes sense to me and I don't have to question anything, from that agent side of it. So that's that experience factor. So what I'm just cautioning people is, if you go in and say what Andy just did and you're not used to it, or haven't done it a lot, it could totally blow up in your face.
Yeah.
But now he's already prepped his buyer for these things that could already happen, that haven't happened, because he's been through it before. So that's what I was say it. So I think that was
well, and do you agree? I mean, cash is very nice. Don't get me wrong, but to me, when I hear, oh, we're bringing you a cash offer, I go, because it always has some kind of other foot that's going to drop. Well, because we're cash, we expect this, or we expect that, or and then it's like, okay,
yeah, come with your cash offer and $25,000 non-refundable earnest money, and now it means something, and it means a lot. For someone's like, hey, if it falls apart, I got 25 grand.
I used to have a guy that was back in the day when I was selling a lot of the bank-owned properties. He would write out his earnest money check for the equivalent of the purchase price and says, go ahead and cash it, and then we'll just transfer the title when we clear it.
Yeah. Hey, Andy, do you think this mortgage demand is now at a 28-year low? Okay, we're at 28-year low. Do you think it's because everyone's just paying cash?
I would bet that there's a lot of people in the marketplace that are putting significant deposits.
Yeah, but seriously, a 28-year low. Now, that has just come out of the freaking woodwork. And what I was saying, this market to me felt like, oh my gosh, there's just, it might be summer. It just might be the doldrums of summer. And we're waiting to kind of just get past summer and people have just kind of chilled a little. But reality, when you talk 28-year lows, going for mortgages, because what is it, 7.25% percent? Yeah. That's scaring people. And it's holding them. And
my God, Chris, last week they were almost up to 8%, and they're bouncing around at around 8% now. It's not even at 7. Good
I was gone.
Yeah, 7 7/8 was what we were being quoted last week. So like 7.6, right? It's like, and it's not. Historically, it's not crazy, but proportionately, it is crazy. The prices went up too high for too long, and then people were getting raises, and they didn't put that. When you take part of the equation away, it screws up the formula. So you had people getting raises and you had prices going up and rates were staying low. So people could afford more than they could really afford, right? So, the average family can't afford $1 million house. It just the math doesn't work unless you have an inheritance or you have a whatever. So for you to save up and have, $300 grand to put down on $1 million purchase, and you're financing $700,000 and your payment should be $8,000 a month on a normal interest rate or whatever it is, and you're like getting by with a $3,000 a month payment, God bless America. You were living the dream for free, almost free. And it was a great deal. I think, Chris, there's going to be a gigantic, and I mean gigantic opportunity with assumable mortgages coming up here. Those, the loans that were lower, that were assumable, save your cash and take that cash to buy people out of those mortgages or to buy down. And all of a sudden you can take their 3.5% or their 4% rate. Granted, their loan has to allow it. You have to get approved. But on the other hand, oh my gosh, I think there's gonna be some great opportunities out there.
I've seen some requirements and rules on what people can and can't do on some of those assumable loans. And I think one of the interesting parts is, and what's happening is that people, to win those offers, they were going in with 20% down. So let's just say they got that in 2020 and they put 20% down at least to be able to get it. And now it's appreciated 10%. Now we're talking at least there's 30%, maybe 35% that they have to be able to, for cash wise, to be able to get to that loan, because a lot of those loans are not allowing them to have additional financing to be able to get to that point.
Right.
So it's not like, hey, I only have 20% down. Well, where's the other 15%? Well, I'm going to have the seller do a contract for deed on the side for it, or a second mortgage. They won't let that happen. So you got to be able to come up with that 35% down, which is going to hold it back. But I also think, Andy, people, even without assumable mortgages, are going to look at their mortgage and say, you know what? And it happens all the time. There's due on sale clauses when you sell, but it's like, I'm going to sell it to these people. I'm going to sell it to them on a contract for deed. And I'll tell you what, I got 2.75%. I'm going to sell it to this guy, and he's going to pay me 6%. And he's going to pay it off within 2 years. By the time they catch up to it and be able to do it, if you're not missing payments, I can't advocate this, but if they're not missing payments, the odds of the mortgage company ever going after someone to be able to get that mortgage freed up is probably pretty rare. And so it's like, hey, what a great financing incentive that you could probably get out there to somebody and say, hey, here's what I'm willing to do. Everyone thinks that the rates are going to go down. It's going to be an election year. They have to go down. I mean, they wanted to make it look good, and have warm fuzzies, and that's why gas prices go down. And we talk about it every 4 years. The economy.
I hate to be this guy, but I think they've cooled this economy a little more than they've realized, and I think you're going to see a tsunami of layoffs coming. I really do, because I look at like all these dealerships that are out there, and I got a couple of my good, very close friends that are in finance, where they finance the boats and the jet skis and the the whatevers that are out there, and then also the dealerships, right, that are at a dealership level. You talk to these people, they didn't have inventory. Then they ramped up inventory at these high prices. So what happened was you saw a ton of these, dock manufacturers, boat manufacturers, four-wheeler, whatever, all making domestic goods with expensive costs and shipping to fulfill inventory that they haven't fulfilled. So we saw about a year here of artificial like growth and stimulation that was all it was doing was fulfilling the inventory that was gone. Now you go to these dealerships. I drive through Alexandria. Every dealership has boats stacked on boats. They have four-wheelers on four-wheelers. There's so much crap out there. And they're like, special this weekend. This, Polaris side-by-side that was normally $39,000 is $1,500 off.
Well, I think a lot of people, too, are kind of using that. Like, I have a boat. And I always look at it and say, you know what? If I get in trouble, I'll just sell that. I'll get 45 grand out of that. No problem. Not anymore.
Well, you look at
Not
trucks.
anymore.
I mean, I've shopped trucks, same thing. And I'm not trying to sound like an old man here, but I'm saying the price went up too fast. And the only reason why it was allowed to go up that fast is because rates were so low. So unless they want to start correcting the prices, they're going to have to bring the rates back down to keep this economy moving, because it's just so used to it. You know what I mean? It's like, is it wrong? Yes. I mean, should they get their lickings and put rates where they're supposed to be, and then they won't. They're going to try to fix it. And I just think that you're going to start seeing a lot of stuff going back overseas because they can't make it here cheap enough. And the prices are going to have to come down somehow. So, I know a good friend of mine that was over at Polaris for years, and they were talking about some of their assemblies that were being made here in the States, like in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and every place, right? Now some of those things can't be made here because they're not cost effective enough. They're reopening plants in Mexico. They're reopening plants in Puerto Rico. They're, in these areas where they can get stuff made a lot less to keep their prices down. Fact.
Yeah, they're saying Mexico's going to be the new China. Their currency is doing really well because they're moving all the manufacturing over to Mexico.
Yep.
I got a little viral Twitter thread here, kind of in the state of the market. I think I want you guys to go over it and hear your thoughts. So. It's a 9-part thing, so let's do each one and then talk about it, and we'll go from there.
A 9-part thing? Wow. All right. So U.S. home sales jumped 4.4% in July, now up a massive 31.5% over last year. Meaning existing home sales. Meanwhile, existing home sales are down 16.6% over the last year, biggest drop since 2010. Okay. High rates made it too expensive to sell. People are trapped in their houses, which is... that's quite interesting. So
should we respond to that first before you move on, or do you want to keep moving on and then we'll respond?
I think that's the first one.
Yeah, do two, 3, and then respond on them. So read.
Go ahead, Andy.
A couple of them, and then we start responding after the third one. So read this one and the next one.
Okay. So new home sales are skyrocketed as interest rates jump up to 23-year high. The 4.4% jump in July was well above expectations of 1%. As rates rise, people do not want to sell their homes. Many people have locked in at historically low mortgage rates. True?
That's very true. I hear that all the time. Why would I get out of my 2.75% interest rate to get into a 7.5% interest rate? That's just obvious. Yeah. So while those rates have gone up to 20-year highs at 7.5%, just 3.7% of homeowners have a rate of 6% or higher. Wow. That's interesting. 3.7% of borrowers right now have a rate of 6% or higher. Huh. And 26% of them have a rate lower than 3%. 91% of all borrowers have a mortgage rate below 5%. Wow.
So there's a lot of things happening in this conversation. That, again, I don't want to say it justifies why when people say the housing market is secure, people don't sell when they have equity or when they have a low interest rate or a low cost of living. The word trapped is in assuming that they don't want to be there. What a lot of people do is they become just like we did when we had lack of equity. They become the incidental landlords, right? They couldn't sell, so they would just rent it. Well, the same thing's happening right now. People are keeping those houses, they're upgrading their houses, and they're keeping the one with the lower interest rate just to take advantage of the free money, because that money works in today's economy. The new higher priced money doesn't work. And I'm seeing a lot of people, attacking interest rates by buying down the rates. I'm seeing people put significant amounts of equity down on purchases. So, you sit there and say, how can these people afford these $700,000 houses? A lot of these people are putting $300,000 and $400,000 down on these houses so that they're in an equity position of where the payments are affordable, even at 7%. That's what I'm seeing.
All right, Andy. So I just did so at 2.75% on $500,000 house versus 7.75% on that same $500,000 house. The difference is $25,000 a year in interest. So it's $2,000 a month. And so here's the thought process.
After tax.
Yeah. So all right. So if I can get this house that I'm purchasing for less money, where before at 2.75%, I was fighting about 3 or 4 different people, maybe paying 20, 30, 40,000 more. Maybe I'm paying 20, 30,000 less. I mean, I'm really gaining 60,000. And so I think that's the buyers that are purchasing right now. That's the way they're thinking. They're like,
that's the investor chase, right? That investor chase is right there. Your cost of money is $24,000 a year cheaper to buy an existing assumable mortgage and give them extra cash, because instead of paying cash and tying up all your cash, you give them enough cash and you tie up maybe 3 properties instead of tying up just one. And, give them their equity, give them their money, buy down their, get their rate. And
I think the bigger problem is people unable to qualify because of that extra $2,000 a month. I think that's a bigger problem than kind of figuring out the numbers, because that's what I've done for people that are looking to say, oh my gosh, we can't do it. And I said, well, here's really what you're looking at. I mean, do you think the rates are going to go down? Yes. Everyone unequivocally thinks the rates are going down. Everyone says that. I said, okay, so here's really what we're looking at. And when you take it from a drastic point, I mean, even say, hey, let's just use your mortgage, for example. So maybe they're at 4%, I use 2.75 and you're buying 7.75. It's $25,000 a year. That's what you're doing. Now, is it worth it to go into that lake home that you want, that you couldn't have got because no one was buying, or no one, you couldn't buy it because everyone else was taking them from you? Now you can be able to get in. Is it worth it to you? And if it is, that's great. But the other thing that's happened is the upper bracket homes. I can't, the inquiries I got while I was in Brazil on our upper bracket neighborhood was crazy. I mean, there's 4 agents that have clients that are looking to build, and they're all looking between $1.5 and $2.5 million. And and 3 out of the 4 were cash people, so they didn't have to worry about it. And so that market is still, it's good. And then all of a sudden you get little outlier markets that, I've lost out on 3 different houses for my acreage horse buyers. What? And like further out, but it's like a huge thing right now. People are trying to get out of the city and trying to get this different, simple life. And now we're competing against, where we're losing on multiple offers.
It's kind of crazy, because that state of Minnesota putting all that infrastructure in with high-speed fiber optic lines, the rural areas, is really started the work from home generation to move out. And I'm seeing it. One of my families this week that we listed for, actually 2 of them are moving north. And I'm talking like north of Brainerd. And like up in the middle of the sticks. They want to live in the country. They want to have that simple life. And I'll tell you, that's very valuable. It's like to a lot of people. And so, but what's interesting is, this whole thread started with what's going across the bottom of the screen right now. New home sales jumped 4.4% in July, a massive 31.5% over last year. Now, why? Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. Last June, July, August, September, October, most builders had goose eggs, meaning 0 sales, because rates started jumping up so fast and the buyers were freaking out. And the only reason why there were closings was because closings take a year to build a house. So what happens is this big tail's wagging but you're not going to see it for another 12 months. So even if we fix the problem now, we're still going to see the lull of the down or the upper rates, right? And then it'll come back and it'll look like we had to go through this curve. But what happens is with housing, new construction builds, the builders can move faster. They have different margins than an existing homeowner. So these builders are sitting on these houses. They know that their costs are higher. They actually were seeing in some cases, the ability to buy better this year than they could last year. So what's happening is they're getting rid of their old inventory. I'm seeing builders with massive discounts on houses like 60, 70. They're giving away all their profit and then some, or they're holding back on the profit and they're giving it to these people on interest rate buy downs. And this is where it kind of screws the existing market, because when you're sitting there saying, okay, I'm going to buy a $500,000 house in the neighborhood, or I could go up the street and buy one for $650,000, but my payment's less to buy the $650,000 because the builder's buying my rate down to 5% or 5.5% or whatever it is for a 30-year fixed. And that's a $30,000 investment from that builder, whatever the maximum amount that's allowed with the mortgage company is. But they're maxing that stuff out. So they're outsmarting the average consumer. And the reason why these sales are going up, it is a temporary coupon that they're offering, where they're offering these crazy like interest rate buy downs. They're offering huge incentives on builders' models. And so that's why the sales are there. This isn't like healthy, organic, hey, I feel good about my life, I'm going to go out and build my dream house. That's not what happened. It's more of an opportunity sale where people that would afford $500 now can afford $650 because the rates are so low. That's what's happening.
Yep.
And in some cases, there's always the odd opportunities, but.
All right. We really think we can get through 9 of these? Let's go. All right.
Okay. As a result, existing home prices are rise above new home prices. I disagree with that. People are willing to pay more for an old home than a new home. I disagree with that. The last time this happened, 2005, in the housing bubble's peak, when old was worth more than new, something is wrong. And I don't know about that. I think what's happening, though, is like you're just seeing some of those discounts, and then you're seeing that existing home market where they have so much equity, they don't care. And they have a low interest rate, so they don't care. So they're just not coming down in price, the existing.
Well, I think what's interesting is that you're someone obviously that's in tune a lot with the new construction part of it, and those questions you were denying each one of them, but there's a graph that says that it's happening. And so I think that's kind of weird, because I would agree with everything that you said, and I would be like, no, that's not true, but obviously they're getting some information that's saying that's true, and that might be a problem. And are they talking about, is this
let's look down at the bottom there, Nick, and see what the source they quote is for those informational graphs. Well, it's hard for me to agree with that.
Well, Andy, with what you were saying, though, I mean, if they're dropping $50,000, $60,000, they probably are dropping under existing homes.
In some cases, yes.
Stuff done. Yeah.
Well, I've got that happening with a townhouse that I've had for sale. The same thing happened where the builder down the street says, you're not taking away one of my buyers, and they drop their prices $10,000 where we can't or won't, right? And then they'll also offer an incentive on interest rates. And so all we're doing is helping them sell more new houses versus our existing house.
Yeah.
But eventually there's not enough gravy on the potatoes forever to keep that momentum going. I mean, they can't keep doing it forever unless they can keep getting people to work for less or getting materials for less, and that's deflation. And we don't really seem to be heading towards a deflationary market. Everything that I'm seeing out there right now is showing that we're going to have costs going up again next year.
All right. So according to Zero Edge, the effective rate on outstanding mortgage debt is now 3.6%. It's well below the current rate of 8%. Selling an existing home to buy another one means that your mortgage rate will triple. That's obviously a problem. That's true. I mean,
there you go. Bankrate.com. We're showing the rates.
Okay, so as rates rise, the divergence between new and existing home sales is widening. Many home buyers now have no choice but to buy new construction. Okay, because what they're saying is that people are trapped in their house, so they're not going to sell it, and so obviously they got to buy new construction. So this is also why the housing starts have been skyrocketing, even in the wake of inflation. Okay, I mean, obviously this is over the United States. I mean, this isn't just a local thing, I don't believe. Number of newly listed properties on the market's down 21%. Yeah, that's what we've said has saved the markets because inventory is low. compared to the 5-year average, there were nearly 30% less newly listed homes in July of 2023. I agree with that. This is why higher interest rates have collapsed the housing market. Okay.
Haven't collapsed.
Yep, this is why interest rates have not. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Haven't collapsed the housing market. All right. That's true. That's what we've been saying the whole time. And as supplies tighten and rates rise, affordability is getting even worse.
Correct.
Obviously. That's what we talked about with the $2,000 not being able to qualify for it. The median sale price of a home in the U.S. now is 560% of the median household income. Andy, you talk about that a lot, the ability to own a home. And then in 2008, it was 360%. So we're 200% more than that. It's the least affordable housing market in the history. Wow. All right. So it's tough to see a case where existing supply returns to the market until the rates fall. Exactly. As we've noted multiple times, ironically, we need lower rates for lower prices. This is a supply crisis, not a demand. Totally.
Well, my fear is that they start seeing the economy struggle. They have a wave of, layoffs or whatever, and then they lower rates. And then all of a sudden people are like, okay, well, we can afford to buy something else. But if you don't have a job, you can't afford to buy anything else. So it's kind of like I still don't think that there's this miraculous cure that's on its way. I think that there's a lot of people that, it puts a lot of pressure on new construction, which is fine. I mean, I know those of us in new construction want to do it. The problem with new construction is, though, repeatedly, when people come to me and say, hey, I want to buy a new house for $500,000 in the Twin Cities, and I'm a mid to low, a medium price to high end, kind of not high end like you are, but most people can afford my houses, right? I can't help you. I can barely build a house right now under $600,000. And then you start going like, well, what are you not going to, don't you want landscaping? You don't want, the basement finish. You don't want, and all of a sudden you start going, wow, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for, $550,000. And you're like, I'm out. And then people don't see the value. So there's a weird situation with new construction. They all want the big mansion, or the McMansions as we used to call them, the, 3,000 square foot above ground, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2 stories with a 3-car garage, walkout basement, finished with another bedroom and a bathroom. And they want it for about $650 to $700. But right now it's trending towards $800.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, Andy, in your neck of the woods, we got a sale of a mall that sold for way less than it sold for in 1998. I want to hear your thoughts on it, if it'll affect the residential in your area.
Oh, okay.
Northtown Mall sold to a Florida company for $31 million. And then in 1998, property was purchased for $54 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, retail's really gotten smacked in the old goodie basket from the old Amazons. But I'll tell you what, I think you're seeing a little bit of a swing the other way as well. I mean, the stores are hanging in there. Some people like to try stuff on. Some people like to How many of us have ordered that shirt that says it's a double extra large and you get it and you can't even fit into it? And then you got to go through the hassle of returning it. And it's like, so I think there are some people like myself included where I would rather cash and carry. You walk in, it's a nice shirt, it fits, it's a good deal, or even a fair price, I'll buy it because I don't want to mess around, but not everybody's that way. They look at commodity items like socks and underwear and all those. They're made by the brand I know and I'm going to order it. But one thing I'd say to you guys is that, they do make special, just like appliances. Appliances, you can buy the same like Whirlpool. Prove me wrong, please. Whirlpool that they sell at like the Ferguson Builder Supply House versus the Whirlpool that's sold at one of the big box stores. They're different. They're made different. That same Whirlpool, then they go to Menards, and Menards makes even a lower cost version of it where all the cogs are plastic and whatever. And they're like, but it's only $300 at Menards. It's $700 at Ferguson. The idea there, or what's that other one?
All.
Yeah, whatever. And so the idea there is you want to look at the internal components of the device, and they purposely are making multiple units so that you can't shop them that way. They don't want everybody to have the model 1, 2, 3 because then you could shop and then nobody makes any money. So they only sell model 1, 2, 3 to this store, 4, 5, 6 to this store, 7, 8, 9 to this store. So you can't price. But anyway,
in regards to that mall, My first, and I don't know Northtown Mall, but this is what I want to ask you, is that, I mean, initially, I'm looking at that it dropped $20 million. So obviously rates and market have something to do with that.
Yep.
But is repair and tenancy, how is Northtown?
It's full.
It's full. Okay. That's interesting.
I mean, it's pretty full. I mean, there's the occasional closed store or whatever but I mean, like that store is kind of, or that mall, I should say, has held its own over the time. I don't go to Northtown Mall, but I drive by there quite a bit. We have an office that's really close to Northtown, and there's restaurants open. I mean, for God's sakes, they even have a Barnes and Noble that's still open every day with books in it that you can go buy and walk out the door with. So it's like, it's a kind of a good little pocket of historical values that people don't want to.
I'm intrigued by that because Burnsville Center, which is basically a ghost town. I mean, it's just gotten so bad. I mean, the food court, half the people are in there. I mean, it's bad. But the construction outside of it's unbelievable. I mean, there's Panda Expresses going in, and I mean, all these little places popping up all around that mall, like within it, where it was a parking lot before. Now it becomes, they're selling off these areas, and it's really interesting to me. And I know. I look at like Eden Prairie Center. I mean, they put Shields in, and now that place became popular again. I mean, Shields is like this huge conglomerate at the end of this, a bookend for this mall, and it's basically revitalized it. I mean, there's a lot of areas that maybe aren't great about that, but it just seems like you have to kind of do some drastic.
Don't kid yourself, Chris. Those stores are working hard to get your attention. Like, we actually stopped in the Shields. We were meeting our friends for dinner right next door at the Wildfire. And so it's the same parking lot, right? So we walked over there and we were walking around inside. And also my wife and I were kind of looking, because I get a kick out of Shields. They have a lot of cool stuff there. And I'm walking around looking, and all of a sudden I see this guy walking in a Vikings jersey, and there's a crowd of people with him. And everybody's like, do you know who that is? And I'm like, I have no idea. And they go, that's Justin Jefferson, the receiver, and he's here buying a family all their Christmas gifts. And then the Shields guys are walking around kind of like to throw it in the cart, and they're putting it in the cart, and it was a big promotional deal. And then they had some other Vikings there doing the same thing. It was really cool. But that kind of stuff creates followers, that creates fans, that creates they're part of something cool. And anyway, they're working very hard to be that full. All you know what I mean?
Speaking of that, I did get you a gift.
Nice.
That's what are they called? A spectro stick? I don't even know, but that's your new hat you get, Andy.
Nice.
You said we never get you anything from his teams, so the jerseys weren't quite big enough. Just saying.
Oh, you're a very big man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No jersey for you. Yeah. I don't even know what accent that is.
I'm like, their linemen are big. I mean, what the hell are they wearing? But they're like those jerseys that, that expand, and so they're super tight. But
yeah, but Chris, there's big, and then there's American big. There's a lot of people in America that are really big.
Yeah, tell me about it. So
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
Whoa.
I might have to pull that interest rate book out again if you watch that commercial. Andy.
It's finally back.
Yeah. Did you see the rates on that? That was at 15% that one. I think that book went from like 10% to like 18%.
Wow.
Anyways, all right, Red Wing,
nice
super cool river town. They've got a lot of good things there. It's not super far away. I guarantee you, this little home here is what they're trying to do. Is trying to get maybe a little Rochester doctor to kind of come over and commute a little to work. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're in a great community. I think on 5 acres, $2.6 million. What is it, 12,000 square feet? Yeah. and built in 2015. To be able to kind of get that, hey, the family can be here, then I'll just drive extra. But I mean, being able to get a home, I mean, 12,600 square feet for 2.5 million. I mean, a house alone, there's no way you could even do that.
That seller's not OCD at all.
Yeah.
It's like exact shrub count, exact balanced roof line. If you go back to that photo, every roof line matches, the fireplaces match, the windows are lined up, the grids are perfect, everything's symmetrical, perfectly symmetrical. The shrubs match almost.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You can look at that. I thought you were talking about the lighting too, and
lighting
that can be digitally enhanced to be able to create that. But
sure.
Yeah, even the chimneys. Look at that. Couldn't do one. Andy had to add a second.
Add 4.
Oh, that is funny. So, but
obviously that's almost to your caliber of home.
Beautiful, beautiful home. Yeah, that's just what I need.
Twice the amount of house. And 12,000 square feet.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of interesting. Is that tile? That must be tile.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna get. You're gonna start getting things like you almost have to look at some of these houses, like, all right, maybe I have to do a $200,000 redecorating allowance to fit my personality. And people usually go in and look at it and say, you know what, it's 2.5. I need 200,000. I got to do it for 2.3. And you gotta. It's just how you look at things. You know, they might have priced it based on, you know, we know it needs help, you know, with some upgrades. And so you look at that kitchen that looks like a tile, and maybe you want hardwood floors through the whole thing. You got to look at it more from a standpoint of, you know, hey, that's what this person wanted, was a custom home. This is how it works for them, and how you want to be able to add on to it. Not just automatically think that it should just come off the price. You got to look at the whole thing. But I think this marketing part of this, obviously the house is going to be nice and it's going to flow and it's big. You can do a lot of stuff with 12,600 square feet, but it's marketing it and getting to the right people. And I think that's what they're doing here. I don't know what this magazine was or what the article was, but this is one that sometimes the social media things can work. And it's basically, you know, targeting that area of, hey, our buyer's going to come from there. I mean, we do that with lake stuff. You know, it's acreage or golf course. Typically, acreage, golf course, and other people from the lake are the ones that are going to buy that house. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get the outliers, but if you can kind of go to those other people and give them an idea that maybe they never had, or maybe they were never looking at, they just stumbled on it. It's all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, that looks great. And that would be cool to be on the lake. And here, what a great opportunity. Let's just go look. And then you try it, you know, go that way. So I don't know what you want me to say about that house, but I think everything about it is real nice. It might not be everyone's perfect taste, but when talking that kind of money for that much house and not super far out, and Red Wing's good. It's a small community, good schools, a lot of things in which to do. I mean, you're right on the Wisconsin border. You got all the hills, and you're off to, you know, everywhere that you want to be, from hunting to hiking to rock climbing to boating on the river. And yet, what is that, maybe 45 minutes back to the cities to be able to get from there? And I don't know how far from Rochester, but I bet you it's within that.
I will be surprised to see what that will sell for eventually. I think, I don't know if there's a ton of buyers at 2.6 million for something that's not on the river, that's in a, you know, just acreage area, because there's a lot of acreage closer to the cities too. You know what I mean? Or I don't know.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know who built it from a standpoint of what kind of buyer they did. You know, like the buyer that actually built that, because that might be your new buyer too, that style. So. So, 45 minutes. Yeah. So that's not horrible. So that's what you have to do. You have to get them to justify that this McMansion is unbelievable. Let your kids and your family and everyone grow up in this small little quaint little cool town, and the biggest house that's there with a pool and everything you ever wanted, vacation every day. And you know what? I'll drive to work. I'll drive to work 4 days a week. Maybe I'll do 10-hour shifts, and I've got a 3-day vacation every week. So,
I'll say this to you. A lot of times when you have that buyer in that price range, they don't want to work that hard to figure out how to make it work. They want it to be great and natural and in the right neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? It's like they buy
and they can build it. They can build it themselves.
They'll pay more for the right lake. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know. I wish them well. I think that may have been a little bit of an overbuild, in my opinion, in that area. I think it looks beautiful. But I think they made the mistake when they built it to build it that big. Like 12,000 square feet, that's a lot.
Andy, you hit it right on the nose too, because some people say, well, I really don't need 12,600 square feet. I could do 8,000 and maybe spend 2.2 and get everything I want.
Chris, 5,000 square feet is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a lot of my new builds that are 5,000 square feet. People walk through and go, oh my God, what is this? 8,000, 9,000 square feet? And I'm like, no, it's 5,000. No. And they can't believe it. And it's over $1 million. And it's like,
Hey, after you see what I spent 11 days in Joe Pessoa, I mean, I came home and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't have to touch the walls. It was so nice.
Oh, you didn't bring us.
I was getting used to it though. What?
You didn't want to torture us through a slideshow or anything?
No, it was actually it had this rooftop though. That was awesome. But I'll tell you what, Brazil is the selfie capital of the world. They never put their phones down. It was unbelievable.
Hey,
guys, girls
and
guys, whatever, every people posing I mean, it was so fake. It was so fake.
Whatever happened with you? You two yahoos were heading off to go to some crime-riddled village or something, and when you left the show, you left us kind of hanging with we're gonna go see this like drug lord like village or something like that where there's no crime.
Was that the favela? We never got to see it.
We were going to go to the monastery, but ended up not going there. In the Centro. We saw these views instead.
There's from my rooftop right there.
Very cool.
Yeah. No, this one's the penthouse we toured.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
How much was that penthouse?
There's Mama.
2 million reais. So it's listed at 400.
Andy, this is where we had breakfast almost every day.
Oh yeah.
That's a lineman of Nick's right there on the left.
That makes sense. Yeah. Looks like a big lineman.
That's why I hid back to the back corner, because they would have thought I was his teammate.
That kid looks like a gentle giant, though. Looks like he'd be a heart of gold.
Yeah, he's a mama's boy.
Super good guy. He's probably right over Nick's left shoulder.
That big, nobody threatens you.
I think he's right over Nick's left shoulder right there in that room. That's where he lives. They live together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Social media reacts brought to you by Andy Praski Preferred Home Team.
Well, they said I could have 30 seconds on the show for a quick ad. Andy Praski, Remax Advantage Plus, Andy@Praski.com if you want to email us. Here's the thing. 22 years in the business, over 1,400 sales. I'd like to help you with your real estate needs. If that's buying, if that's selling, if that's building, whatever it is, give us a call, send us an email. Let's get you started on your real estate journey. I'd like to help you on the way. Lots of experience here, and I would like to put it to work for you. Andy Praski, Remax Advantage Plus. Thanks for listening to the show. Did you see at the end there, Chris, where I thank the listeners for listening?
You're so nice.
I'm a giver.
Totally. That's what the builders are doing. What Andy said, they're doing buy down rates to be able to get your rates down. More people can afford it. If you're pushing towards it, it kind of gets them maybe to the where they're going to refinance anyways. And so at least they're thinking. You got to think, make them positive and give people options. So.
I'm fucked. Oh shit. I'm fucked.
Wow. Family podcast here.
Hey, we're 54 minutes in. It's fine.
There's I think on that, it's just showing over 30 years what it's going to cost you. Now, the odds of someone paying on one mortgage for 30 years is pretty darn rare for that to happen. But yeah, that would cause for some nice language for sure.
I have nothing to say.
No.
All right, last thing. We'll just look at this castle home in St. Paul.
Andy, that language reminds me of you on the radio before the WCCO would go live. You sail, then you turn into a choir.
Talk like a sailor and then flip the old mouth guard in.
Then you're a total choir boy.
Yeah.
Castle-like, wow. St. Paul.
Ooh.
St. Paul home for sale. Oh, look at all that. What do you think of that, Andy, with all the vegetation on the siding?
Well, that's subjective to opinion. It reminds me of like a French chateau.
Yeah.
But I definitely would want to see that stripped.
You don't like it?
No, I didn't say that. I just organic material
I don't.
on stucco or brick wanders its way in, starts getting to where it starts compromising the materials, eventually will destroy the exterior of that house. Now if that's all mounted to a mesh wired, hanging system that's put there intentionally to hang on, whole different story.
Yeah. I want to see the rest of it because I have a feeling that this house, that's going to be the lure. Okay, their first picture, I think I'm right. Yeah. So smaller kitchen, kind of dated. I think the value to that is going to be the vegetation. Oh, there we go. The vegetation on the house is kind of the value. It gives you a sense of what you were talking about, a French chateau, and I'm going to be able to fix the inside. I think it's going to help them versus hurt them. Now, I think if this thing was completely updated and newer and nicer, then I think that whole outside would have to be plucked and made to look like we don't have plants growing out of our house.
Yeah.
Because that's the way people look at it. Do you look at it as a French chateau, or do you look at it like, hey, the plants are coming out of the house? In two ways, I think plants are coming out of the house.
Right.
You think plants are coming out of the house, but someone else is going to think that thing is. I mean, you know how long it takes to be able to create something like that?
Years.
Unbelievable to be able to do that.
Well, and you're right, Chris. And I think that I've had buyers in the past where they say, I just hate the direction everybody's going on style. I want something that's completely old school, take me back, and I will feel really comfortable. And they're going to find that right buyer because this house has been thrown so far that direction that you're going to get a lot of people that are going to not even look at it because of that. And then you're going to have somebody that's going to walk in and say, it's beautiful. Oh my God, I can't believe it's still for sale. And finally, a house with some character, and let's take it.
I'll tell you what, this very rare do you get a house like this.
Oh, there's naked.
Okay, there it is. There it is without it. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
so
nice.
because very rare, I was just going to say that you get an opportunity that if it doesn't work out this way, or no, you know what? That's just the back end. Look at the front. You can see on the left side, that's part of the front of the house. So they've uncovered it all the way around the rest of it.
Mm.
Is that true or not? Try to find that front picture again.
If you go back to the first photo, I think it looks the same, but
it is. You're right. Oh my God. How much better is the brick?
I'd buy that house. I wouldn't buy that house.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I was just going to say there's no better opportunity now. I mean, with the abilities that we have now with making things look different, but to be able to completely have, hey, let's try it. We're going to try it with this on, and then to be able to strip it and make it look like, hey, this is what it could be. And to be able to say, hey, here's what it was and here's what it is, and look like two completely different things. Completely. Yeah. You could totally change that thing up. And so there might be someone that doesn't really know or didn't do those photos. And even though you do that with photos, it's still really hard to be able to tell when you go look at it.
I might even do a combo, Chris. I would maybe leave the ivy around the rounded, silo looking part of the house. and or something as an accent, and then take it off the rest of it so you can see what it.
Or what about some just wrangling up, not a whole forest? You know, some is just, you know, thin
More
those
control.
things out. Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm huge on vegetation around the house and getting rid of trees. And I guess I'm not super Mr. Green guy, but I'm trimming up trees. You got to see the house. And so I think it's really important.
Is it worth that 1.3 asking price?
Yeah, it's almost 5,000 square feet. Depends on the neighborhood it's in.
Yeah, but that thing needs to completely updated inside. I don't think there's a chance they're going to get 1.3. But again, yeah, like Andy
kitchen's
said,
90s.
I couldn't recognize the neighborhood.
Right.
So
Oh, beautiful. All right, guys. Hey, click that link right there. All our websites, everywhere the show is broadcast is on there. Go to our YouTube channel. It's starting to pop off. Give us likes and send in any questions. Chris, what's up?
we got to say happy birthday to Morgan, my little assistant, who's also my daughter. It's her birthday tomorrow. 20 years old.
Wow. Happy birthday, Morgan.
Nicholas, you better remember to say happy birthday to Morgan too. Okay.
See you guys.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.